This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi everyone, I'm Meteo Mundo Chief Meteorologist Rusty McCraney. Thanks for joining us on this Friday, September the 22nd. The weekend is here, my friends, and there's still a lot to talk about. We're going to get real close into the areas that you live in the Caribbean and the Bahamas. And we'll talk about the United States East Coast as well. Take a look at the rain chances and also the tropical development here that we expect over the weekend. Still have two areas of interest. We have potential tropical cyclone number 16, which again could be a named storm. The next one on the list is Ophelia. We'll talk about what that is going to bring to the United States East Coast coming up. And we still have this tropical disturbance moving into the Atlantic Basin with a high chance of development. More than likely over the next couple of days, we are going to get at least a tropical depression to develop, but most of the models begin to wrap this up into at least a tropical storm or even a hurricane late in the period. And that one could be the P-name storm if that Ophelia develops, and that would be Philippe. So let's talk about that one real quick as well. I want to zoom in on that area. Now, there's a little bit of good news on this Friday. At the end of this development area from the Hurricane Center, you notice it tries to bring up that northwest turn before the leeward, the windward islands, and Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. This has always kind of been the crux of what's going to be happening with this one. Does this one begin to turn like Lee and Nigel did before it moves into the windward and the leeward islands? The models have not been in very good agreement at all. First of all, on the intensity of the development from this area of disturbed weather, and then the track itself as well. But let's get into that. I'm going to show you the GFS model. This is the same model I've shown you the last several days throughout the week. We're going to see as this model begins to loop that we'll start to have this area of disturbed weather developing as we go through the weekend. So more than likely as we get into Monday, we're going to have at least a tropical depression. Most of the models hold on to that as well. And then it's all about the track after that. Now the GFS model the last several days was slamming this system into the windward and leeward islands and taking it into the eastern sides of the Caribbean, very close to Puerto Rico. Now the newest model run that I'm showing you right now does begin that northwest turn before it moves into the island. So that's good news. Again, it's still just one model run. I've mentioned that before with the ones that were coming into places like Martinique and Barbuda, that this is still just for informational purposes. We have to keep an eye on it, but it's good to see the trend of as this begins to wrap up, it is turning north and west, because again, this same model yesterday was taking it right through the windward in the leeward islands. Now, if you live in these areas, San Juan, Ponce, on over towards Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Martinique, Trinidad and Tobago even. Just keep an eye out for the forecast for the week ahead. But again, as we get into midweek, we're going to have a system. It's going to be developing. It's just all about the track. But again, kind of good trends, if you will, on what the models have been doing with that one. So we'll return to these areas and look at your rain chance coming up here for the weekend in just a second. Want to get into what's happening right now along the west coast, excuse me, the east coast of the United States, north of the Bahamas. But this potential tropical cyclone is still going to influence our rain chances in places like Nassau and Freeport for the weekend ahead. Now, it's going to bring tropical storm conditions, regardless of development, to portions of the United States East Coast. Again, I've mentioned it that this was never going to be a very defined center of circulation, more of a mid-level rotation, but we are getting some very gusty winds right now up in places across the Outer Banks. As a matter of fact, I can show you that right now. I'm going to go over to what we call the METAR observations here. I'm going to put those on, and these are your wind gusts. So again, we're getting close to some tropical storm force wind gusts already across portions of the barrier islands of North Carolina. Again, these are updating live for you right now early on this Friday afternoon. And that's what's going to be headed into those areas for us here. So again, not going to see a true system more than likely developing, but there is an opportunity that we do get a named storm. Again, subtropical systems do have names. Going to throw on the watches for you and warnings, and all of this area in blue basically goes up through the Outer Banks into the Chesapeake Bay and then eventually the Delaware Bay. Those are tropical storm warnings because they do expect tropical storm conditions in these areas. And we are going to have some high surf and a storm surge. As a matter of fact, for the Chesapeake Bay, they're calling for a 3 to 4 foot storm surge. That could be fairly significant. So something that those portions of the United States East Coast going to have to be monitoring for us very closely as well. Let me get those METAR observations off. Let's take a look at the future track rain from this as well. And I'm going to actually back this model down a little bit in time just to basically include the weekend here. We'll go back into, let's say, we'll go into Monday afternoon, put that into motion for you real quick so you can kind of get an idea of what's going to be happening. So again, we'll let this cycle one time. There it comes right up into the Carolinas. It's going to bring some lashing rains. I mean, it's going to be a decent rainmaker as it gets into the Northeast and New England. Tomorrow is going to be a horrible day across the I-95 corridor, and then kind of in chunks it moves back offshore. Now, what is it going to do to the forecast for the Bahamas for the weekend ahead? Well, it's going to keep some moisture in play for us here. So you can see we're going to have scattered rain redeveloping on Saturday, moisture lifting, kind of being pulled in, dragged in, if you will, from the southern sides of that potential tropical cyclone. So I do expect there to be a fairly good chance for some rain across the area, you know, at least into Saturday night, potentially even maybe Sunday morning. It'll dry out a little bit on Sunday afternoon as well. Again, I just want to get this model time right here. Going to take it through Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, and then we'll pause it and kind of take a look at things. So this is going to be tomorrow late afternoon. You can see the rain I expect across the northwest Bahamas. So Nassau, a real good chance for showers and storms. Same thing for Marsh Harbor, Spanish Town, Freeport, West End, down towards Arthurstown as well. And then really just, you know, the entire Bahamas with a good chance for some showers. It'll be a little bit lower chance for rain in the southern side of the Bahamas and into the Turks and Caicos, especially on Sunday, but they'll still have the opportunity. And I'll forward this model, and you can see on Sunday it does begin to dry out some. Still at least some scattered showers out there. Now, for Puerto Rico, what are we going to see over the weekend ahead? Scattered rain, nothing very significant for us here. And this is going to include the Dominican Republic. Still could see some heavier downpours. And on the eastern side of Puerto Rico into the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, a little bit higher chance for a few showers developing. You can see that on the model as we get into Sunday. But there'll be a lot of dry hours and locations, not only across just Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, but also for the Leeward and the Windward Islands as well. A little bit heavier rain potential for places like Dominica and Martinique, again, as we get into the weekend. Scattered rain if nothing else, but again, no actual organized area, but just a little bit higher chance for some rain here. Southern side of the Leeward, northern side of the Windward Islands, Martinique down towards St. Lucia. Gets a little bit more scattered as you get towards Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago as well. And I don't expect a lot of rain for places like Aruba and Curacao and Bonaire for the weekend, looking mainly dry for those islands. Getting to our friends in Jamaica for the Kingston area, again, a little bit of rain for the weekend ahead, scattered showers, nothing very heavy. It's going to be pretty hot in Jamaica for the weekend, but as far as rain chances go, relatively limited. It's really the Bahamas this weekend out of the areas that I mentioned with the highest chance for showers and storms. So for Grand Bahama, 60% chance tomorrow, down to a 40% chance on Sunday. Now, sea conditions on the exposed areas of the northern side of the islands, they're going to be kicked up a bit with some long period swells thanks to that potential tropical cyclone. Nassau has a 70% chance for showers and storms, a pretty wet Saturday ahead, but it does drop down to 30% chance on Sunday. So the boating forecast certainly better for Sunday in the Bahamas. Puerto Rico, a 30% chance for showers, Ponce, San Juan. Jamaica, just a 20% chance for showers there, and not a lot of rain in Aruba. Trinidad and Tobago, you get that far south, a 30% chance, but again, a higher chance for some rain, they say, towards Martinique and areas to the north of that island for the Windward and the Leeward Islands. That is the latest. We'll keep you updated on what's happening on the tropics over the weekend ahead as well. Again, if this is helping you out in the forecast and planning your day, just make sure you like that video and subscribe to our channel. We'll keep you updated right here at Meteo Mundo.